Hi, I'm Eric, and this is Platform. This is the place where ideas are discussed and examined. Before we begin, we'll show you some bio on each of our guests. I'll be interviewing them one at a time, and we'll edit their thoughts into a final program. Please enjoy the lovely elevator music from our house band as we introduce each of our guests. Today we're going to talk about fear. What are you most afraid of?
I have a son that's 13, and I think my biggest fear, even though I don't think about it all the time, is losing him before I pass, and not be able to provide and have him, watch him grow to be a man.
I grew up in a ranch, and the first years of my life, and so when you grow up in a ranch, pretty much your parents are letting you run free and experience whatever comes to you. And thanks to that, I'm not very
Brave.
Yep. But if you ask me, yes, it has to do with not myself, but having any of my children or my husband, Mark, going through some pain, physical or emotional pain.
Nuclear holocaust.
Uh-huh.
Kind of grew up in the Cold War era, so that's kind of always in the back of your mind. And
Losing Peter because of my deficits of the vision. Other than that, there's not much I'm afraid of.
In college, I read Kierkegaard for a semester, and his whole foundation of his thesis was the fear of death. And that was this idea that all motivation comes from the fear of dying. But over the years, I think that's become almost a, I wouldn't say cliche, but I've become so used to that being just the go-to, this is what I'm afraid of, dying. But I don't actually even think about, how terrifying it would be to die.
Do you have any techniques that you use to cope with fear?
I use different things, but the first thing I do is I ask myself this question that has to do with, okay, Raquel, at the end of the day, this situation is going to be the end of the world for you or not? And always the answer is not. So that takes me to that reality check that gets me right away, kind of like, okay, now what can I do next? And if I still feel like I can feel some agitation or short, breath, my breath is short, or my heart rate is a little bit, high, what I do, I recruit my exhalations. I kind of work on this lengthening the exhales to calm the nervous system down. And then I keep checking with the body. After I do that, I go back and forth how I feel. Okay, I'll breathe a little bit more. And then when a body, mind, everything is kind of like in the same level, I can say, oh, okay, that's good.
Like, in the day, sometimes you feel overwhelmed, anxiety about all the things you need to do. And if you just write everything out that's on your mind that you have to do, and then highlight 3 of those things you have to do for the next day that are priority, can help focus on getting things done.
That's good thinking.
if there is some kind of possible impending disaster or discomfort, I just try to think of the worst case scenario and think, can I live with that? Can I live with a worst case scenario? And then think it's not going to be, it's probably not going to be the worst case. It probably might even be way better than that, and most likely. So that's kind of how I deal with it.
Would you have less fear in your life if you ignored the media?
To me, I have to say no, because I don't really let the media affect me. I think there's a lot of people, I mean, I watch the news sometimes, and if I see something, I'll research it, but I don't let it overwhelm me and consume me. I think some people, I think some of the older population, my mom, some of the people that I know, that that's all they do is focus on what's in the media. And to me, it's like emotional hijacking. They let that take over their brain, and that's all they think about and worry about. And who knows, some of it's factual, some of it's not. But what I've always told people is I try to worry about what I can do in my community and focus on, when I lived here in Taos or when I lived in Los Alamos, what I can do to affect change within my state and my county. Because I can't solve the problems in China, and I can't the Middle East, and if I fixate on it.
Yeah, I think so, because I think the media is pretty good at stoking fear. So, all of the end time stuff, the end of democracy or whatever the fear of the week is, it usually doesn't take place.
I don't follow the media. I have to say, we don't own a TV in our home. We have a TV though, up in the studio in our guest room, but we go there just to watch a movie or some TV show. I don't follow us, so I don't feel the need, and when I do, which is the worst part, maybe when I'm following the media is around election time, is the worst time to do it. That's when I use a lot of breathing techniques, and I go on long walks.
No, I don't think so. I think in some ways, my greatest existential fear is what happens if I can no longer provide for myself. And I don't see where the media has any impact on it. I don't really have much interest in what the media has to say.
I don't think so, because I need to know what's going on. So, I try not to watch it as much as I should, but I've really cut back on how much I do watch. There's only like maybe 2 shows I'll watch now, just so I can know what's going on, and if there's any way I can help in any way.
Do you enjoy watching scary or suspenseful things?
I used to a lot. I used to specifically go to movies that were scary for the fun of it. And I recently read somebody saying that the reason we do this is because we know it's a risk-free activity where you get to experience the thrill of the roller coaster without actually being in it.
I don't like putting things like that in my head. I just try to avoid just putting myself in position, then I have to deal with that in the head. So I just don't go there.
I love scary movies, all kinds of them. The zombie ones, the chainsaw ones, any of them.
Do you feel fear when you watch them?
No, I don't, because I'm enjoying them so much. They scare me really quick, and I kind of like that feeling.
I never liked it. It's like they're too predictable and kind of, it's like, don't go in the basement. They always go in the basement. Why?
I don't. And I was watching a movie or show at a certain time in your life when I was younger, Jaws. As you know, I hated the ocean. I was afraid of sharks. I'm still afraid of even the pool. Before I'd get freaked out if there was a shadow in the pool, because Jaws messed me up so bad that it really freaked me out. That it changed my behavior and who I was, really, as far as what I liked and disliked, because I love the water. But every time I'm in the ocean, even if I'm just barely, I just think about. I still this day terrified.
Are you attracted to doing scary or dangerous things?
When I was in college, we used to I painted houses for a guy, and we had this ladder that was a triple wooden triple extension ladder. It took 4 guys to set this thing up, and it would just go 60 feet up in the air, and it would blow in the wind. And I'm always like, I'm always at the top, and I'd have to hang off and paint this stuff. It was like a filigreed wood that we called it gingerbread, and I'd be out there painting that, and I just couldn't be happier. I'd just look over the tops of all the
No rope
tree.
hanging on to you?
No, just me, one hand hanging on, one foot hanging on, and it's just, it makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it's not I'm looking for to put myself in situations that are scary or I experience like, you know, being afraid because I'm going to do this or because I like to do that. Sometimes I do that out of curiosity or because I'm curious and I just put myself in certain situations that I go like, oh, okay, that was stupid. Why did I do that?
I mean, I have done a lot of things that have been potentially
Yeah, I know you climb
dangerous.
mountains and-
Yeah, I've
yeah.
done a lot of rock climbing and a lot of kayaking and skiing, and I've performed in front of live audiences, which is
That's pretty frightening.
and there's another
The
thing.
first time.
What about stage fright? Or
Yeah.
Somebody I saw recently had posted something on internet how their greatest fear is speaking in public. And I thought to myself, speaking part is easy.
Yeah. Is there any animal that you're afraid of?
Oh, I had a long list.
A long list of animals?
List of animals,
Really?
yeah. Actually, there's been some, even at the shelter last year, there was a mouse in there, and one of the animal control officers, she was like, get it. And I jumped on the table. I was like, ah! I'm not touching it. Get it out.
That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it freaks me out. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I can't. I'm terrified of them. I just think about them crawling on me.
Have you ever seen vultures up close? Like
Ugly.
they're disgusting.
Yeah.
They are really disgusting.
Yeah.
But I figure if you have a close encounter with a vulture, you're already in a world of shit anyway.
I'm not afraid of animals, though. I am very uncomfortable being squeezed. So I would say I wouldn't be happy hanging out around a Burmese python. But it doesn't mean I don't like snakes.
I find like walking through a herd of cattle really scary. Actually, they're huge.
Yeah, they're big
you
monsters.
know,
Yeah.
and they're not very smart.
They're going to step on you. Or...
Easily, they could accidentally harm you. So I'd find it really difficult to like walk up to a cow and pat it.
Is that right?
And yet, people who work around cattle do it all the time.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I'm definitely intimidated by, but I don't think about them very often either.
Good idea.
Well, what are the odds that I'm going to encounter the problem? And how could I prepare myself either? I think that's part of it. What possible measures could you take to deal
Cow,
with?
I don't know, a cow.
Yeah, it's like
Get out of here.
I need to have some cattle practice, or and then you'd have to start going through a whole series of things like, okay, I've mastered cattle, let's go deal with elk.
Yeah.
What do you do at that point? It's and where does it stop?
Yeah. I'd like to thank all of our guests today, and thank you for watching.
Boom. Shakalaka.